All right, it's time for our week 7 predictions. I have 12 of the biggest games here, and we're going to go through them, talk briefly about the matchup, and then predict the score. So, Friday night, huge game. USF travels to North Texas. Just a massive G5 matchup. North Texas has looked solid to start the year. They're 5-0. They have their quarterback who never started a game in high school, which is nuts. He's really good. USF, obviously, with the solid wins over Boise State and Florida. I like them in this matchup by a little bit. I feel like North Texas is a little bit of a fraud. I think USF is just the better, more physical team in this matchup, and they will pull this one out 31 to 24. I don't have a ton of trust in this USF offense, though. I don't love it, but I just think North Texas is kind of a faker, unfortunately. And then USF will just flat out be the better team. Ohio State's going to travel to Illinois. There's really not a lot to say about this one. I don't think Illinois is that great. I don't. I think there's a lot to draw from their 63 to 10 loss. I obviously don't think that Indiana is 53 points better than Illinois. That was kind of fluky that it was that bad. I think Illinois just I don't know what happened to them in that game. I don't know what happened to them, but they're not that bad. But against Ohio State, I don't care. It's at home. I don't care where it is. I don't care if this game is being played on Mars. Ohio State is likely going to thoroughly dominate this one. I have them pulling this one out 31 to 13 over the Illini. So this is one that has my complete attention, and I will most definitely be locked into. At the 11 o'clock slate, Alabama travels to Missouri. Oh, man. Missouri is one of the best teams in the entire country at running the football. They have a running back duo that's exceptional, led by Ahmad Hardy. And they have a great running quarterback in Bo Pribula. The last time Bama played a team that was like this, they lost to Florida State. Now, Florida State does not have the backs that Missouri has, but they obviously have a quarterback that can run all around. So this is a really sketchy one for Bama. Really sketchy one for Bama. I do think they'll be a lot more prepared in this one than they were against Florida State. They've continued to look sharper and sharper each week. But Missouri's hungry. They are hungry for a win. This is the biggest game that they've had up there in quite a while. It kind of sucks to get the 11 o'clock slot. Definitely deserved better, but I'm going to slightly lean Alabama. I have to. I can't pick the upset here, but I would not be surprised at all if Missouri pulls this one off. I believe the spread's only like 3 points to Alabama, but the rushing attack that Missouri presents really, really scares me for Alabama. But I don't think Missouri's defense is that great. I don't think it's that great. I don't think Bama is going to have too much of a pushback from Missouri offensively. Not that Bama's going to go light up the scoreboard or anything, but I do think they'll be able to do what they want for the most part. And I do think Missouri will be able to do what they want on the ground for the most part. Not that they're going to go run for 350 on Bama or something like that, but they'll have success on the ground. They will have success on the ground against anybody. But I do like Bama pulling this one out 27-24, despite it being on the road. But again, would not be surprised at all if Missouri pulls off this upset and just shoots into the top 10. So Indiana is traveling out to Oregon, and this is the real test for Indiana. I think this is a really good football team. I actually think they're better than the team last year, even though that might not reflect in their final record because their schedule is tougher this season. But I do like Oregon at home. Oregon's so good. They're really, really good. I think this team potentially is better than last season. I completely honestly don't think these teams are too far apart in terms of how good they are, but it's at Oregon. Long travel for Indiana. I just hope Signetti, if they lose, doesn't use that as an excuse like James Franklin did. But anyways, I like Oregon here. It's at home, crazy environment. I just don't see them losing at home. It would have to be a really, really, really just great team to go in there and win. I mean, even Ohio State last year went in there and lost, and then dominated them in the playoff at a neutral site. So I like Oregon to defend the home turf and win this one, 28-20. Oklahoma versus Texas in the Red River Shootout. This game lost a lot of its luster because of Texas losing to Florida. Even if Oklahoma does not have Mateer, I'll still like them. This defense is just so nasty. So nasty. I just don't see Texas. They just don't have the dudes right now to do much against this offense. They still have a solid defense. It was a little exposed against Florida, but it's still a solid unit. Oklahoma is a team that has been interesting to say the least on offense. Mateer's been great, but the run game has been super sketchy. So I like Oklahoma edging this one out 20-17 over Texas with Mateer or not. Maybe if they have Mateer, I would say 28-17 or something, but Even Michael Hawkins in there, I like Oklahoma to win this game. I just don't trust Texas right now. I don't trust that offensive line or Arch Manning or the weapons they have. The whole offense is sketchy, and I don't 100% trust the defense anymore either. So I got to go with Oklahoma here. So our next one, Nebraska travels to Maryland. Maryland coming off an absolute heartbreaking loss to Washington. I believe they led this one 20-3 heading into the fourth quarter. They may have even led it 20-0 at one point. Nebraska's a team that is just known to choke these kind of games, but unfortunately for the Terrapins, I have them losing another heartbreaker this week. I just think Nebraska's flat out the better team. I don't think they're great, but I just don't like Maryland at all. Last week could be a crushing loss that just sends them down a spiral to mediocrity again. And unfortunately for them, I think that's what happens. I have Nebraska snatching this one 24-23, but this would be a very typical Nebraska game to lose. But I also said that about the Cincinnati game early in the season. And it was really Cincinnati that threw that one away. Literally threw it away with Brennan Sorsby throwing that terrible interception when they were super close to field goal range, ready to tie that game up. But anyways, I got Nebraska taking out Maryland by 1 point. Florida is going to go to A&M. A&M coming off the good one over Mississippi State, and then Florida obviously coming off the one over Texas. I like A&M in this one. I just think they're better. It's at home. Another conference game at home for Texas A&M. This is their third in a row. Florida, I think they're a decent team, but I think A&M is a great team. So I want to choose great over decent. I like A&M here. I do think it'll be kind of a defensive slog, similar to that Auburn game. A little more points though. I don't see this one being 16-10, but both teams have solid defenses and both teams have areas of weakness on offense. So I like A&M to pull this one out 24-16 over the Florida Gators. So our next one is Georgia traveling down to Auburn. Auburn just doesn't have the offense to win this game, unfortunately, on paper. Crazy stuff happens at Jordan Hare. Their game is seems to always be close for some reason, but on paper, previewing this game, they just don't have the offense. I do think it'll be a tight one for a lot of it, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's just going to be more the same for Auburn, I believe. I like Georgia to win this one, 27-17. Really similar to these past couple close losses for Auburn. I still think Georgia's a really good football team. They were my preseason pick to win it all. I know people have talked about how this defense really doesn't have standout players, but against Auburn, they really don't need that. They just need a cohesive unit to play well. So I like them to take this one on the road by 10. Michigan traveling to USC. This is really the game I'm most torn on. I still don't know right now who I want to pick in this game. I have the score being 28-27, but I don't know who I want to take. I'm literally thinking right now, like who to pick. I'm not sure. I highlighted USC on here as my pick, but I just don't know. I don't trust them, really. I think I'm going to go with Michigan. My gut says Michigan. My gut has sucked this year, but I'm going to stick with it. Maybe it'll pull through here. I like Michigan 28-27 to beat USC, but would not be surprised if USC pulls this one out, obviously. South Carolina goes to LSU. These are two really similar teams. Really similar teams. These are two teams with good defenses, but just terrible offensive struggles. On the LSU side, they have great receivers. Running backs are all right, and the quarterback struggle. South Carolina side, the receivers have not been great. Offensive line has been pretty mid. Running backs are all right. And I didn't say anything about LSU's offensive line. Their offensive line's been mid also. But going back to South Carolina, they have a good quarterback. Really good quarterback in Lenore Sellers, who has not been talked about at all. He's absolutely fallen out of the public eye because of the team around him just not being great. But two really similar teams, but it's a night game in Baton Rouge. I'm not going to pick against LSU in this one. I think the issues on South Carolina a little bit more glaring. I like the Tigers to grind this one out and win a really tight one, 20-16. But I don't know about LSU. I don't know. This is a team that could easily finish out the year 8-4. I did do a playoff prediction that I was gonna put into this podcast this week, but I unfortunately did not bring that with me, and I re-predicted all the games for all the teams, and I believe I had LSU going 8-4. South Carolina, I'm not sure what I had them going. I think I had them maybe at 6-6, which is so unfortunate. I thought this was going to be a great team coming into the year, but just the receivers, running backs, offensive line. It's the only piece on that offense that's good is Lenore Sellers. If they didn't have Lenore Sellers, they might average like 6 points a game in the SEC. Like, no joke. They just have nobody. I guess they have Nick Harbor, but they don't give him the ball, and he still has stone hands. So I like the Tigers in this one at home, 20-16. BYU goes to Arizona. I actually have Arizona highlighted here as the winner, but kind of second guessing that, thinking more about their loss to Iowa State. the only game that they really played competition in. I think I'm going to flip back to BYU right here, actually. I just really don't trust this Arizona team. And I don't trust BYU that much either. I think they're a fraud. I talked about that in my ranking segment. I had them at number 20 and said that they could probably fall. This could start their descent, but I just don't trust Arizona enough to pick them here. I don't. I did earlier when I highlighted them as the winner, but I just don't. BYU's got a great running back in LJ Martin. He is really the heart and soul of this offense. Bear Meyer's been solid at quarterback. He is a true freshman, so that will probably be a problem later in the year, but I do think they eat this one out on the road against Arizona. I just don't think Arizona's good. I just don't think they're very good at all. But I do think it'll be another close one. Another close one. They sneak out 27-24 on the road. So our final game here in the picks is a huge one in the Big 12. Arizona State traveling the Rice-Eccles to play Utah. Utah obviously had the crushing loss to Texas Tech where it just snowballed late and got out of hand. Arizona State has quietly been playing some good football. They've been great, really, outside of some red zone struggles. And if they want to win this game, they're going to have to clean that up. They cannot be dilly dallying in the red zone and not punching it in. Really, for that reason, I lean Utah, and also it being at home. Really tough environment. I believe this is the night game. I do have it last here in my picks, and I go through the weekly schedule that is in order of game time. So this should be a night game since it's the last on here. Yeah, it's a 9:15 game here in Central Time Zone. So night game for that one. That's a really tough environment. That place gets nuts. I do really like Arizona State. I actually have more questions about Utah, to be honest, with just the way their offense looked against Texas Tech. But I really do just believe Texas Tech is that good. I think they're going to make a lot of teams look like that. They made Houston look like that as well on the road. But it's at home. The red zone struggles for Arizona State. I think that's going to show up, and that's not just an issue that is going to magically just disappear. Until I see them clean that up, I'm not going to believe that it can just vanish. So I like Utah to win a close one here. I also had this one being 27-24. Utah getting back on track with a big win. I actually have three games on here being 27-24. I had Alabama beating Missouri 27-24. BYU beating Arizona 27-24, and then Utah Arizona State. Arizona State's last two games ended 27-24. I'm pretty sure with their ones over TCU and Baylor. So who's to say it doesn't happen again? There's not going to be a game to preview that we go to this week because Wilkes will not be back in town yet, unfortunately. I was thinking about going to a game this weekend with somebody else possibly, but I don't think that's going to happen. So we'll be back on the road in week 8. I believe that we are going to go to Auburn versus Missouri at Jordan Hare. Get to go to Jordan Hare for the first time, so that'd be a lot of fun. There's some other big ones past that. We'll probably be at a couple more state games this year. Probably the Texas game. We are going to be at the Egg Bowl because state plays basketball on the same day, and I'm a big state basketball fan, so we'll have to double up there on that day. And I'm gonna hand it off to Wilkes for his Week 7 predictions.
Going to move on to my Week 7 predictions. Let's start with USF at North Texas. This game will be really fun. Very under the radar game. It has playoff implications for both of these teams. North Texas is undefeated. USF's only lost to Miami at Miami. Currently one of the best teams in college football, so not a bad loss to have. Byron Brown's run game is going to be the biggest factor here offensively. Their run game is pretty much non-existent when he doesn't run the ball, so he's going to have to be their sole run game here and extend a lot of plays for them. Passing game's been kind of spotty. He's been a little inaccurate, but he's starting to become more polished as the years have gone by, hitting more big pass plays down the field. So if he finds some of those and is able to run the ball well, they will have a good offensive output. Drew Mestemaker for North Texas continues to probably be one of the more unsung best quarterbacks in college football right now. No turnovers right now for him. He's definitely up there as one of the best quarterbacks in the group of 5, if not the best. He's playing really well. His story's really neat. Definitely check that out if you haven't heard about him. But I'm going to take USF 41-38. I just think that at the end of the day, USF's defense is probably just a little better. North Texas's offense is very solid, but USF just seems to have a little bit more talent. Maybe they were able to pull from the Power Four via transfer portal. They're just a stingier defense. They've got better wins. North Texas's 49-point win against Washington State's a really solid win for them, but I just don't think they've played anybody yet to really prove to me that they can compete with teams like USF and actually win. I think it'll be close, though. So I've got USF winning by 3 in a shootout. Moving on, Ohio State at Illinois. Ohio State's defense, playing against a spotty Illinois offense, I just don't like the matchup. Luke Altmaier could have a great game. It could be close, but I don't see a scenario where Ohio State's defense gives up more than 24 points to Illinois, and I definitely don't see a scenario where Illinois stops Ohio State offensively. So I think Ohio State rolls. They're able to run the ball. Bo Jackson's been really solid. There are 3 receivers, Cornell Tate, and I think they got one other guy that's really solid. Forgetting his name at the moment, but their receivers have been unstoppable. It doesn't matter who they want to throw to. Three-headed monster's been impossible to guard. Julian Sand's playing really good football right now. I think they roll 47-21. Definitely like Ohio State favorably in this matchup. Next, you got Alabama at Missouri. Bama's defense looks like they're back on track. They've played some really good football. Um, Georgia, they were able to limit them very well in the passing game. They were able to limit Vanderbilt somewhat. They don't look like they're as disruptive as previous Alabama teams, but they kind of seem to have a little bit of a bend don't break mentality as well, with some key players that can add pressure and make big plays happen. I like Alabama, but I definitely think that Missouri's offense and their balanced system profiles a lot more to FSU than anybody they've played since. So if Alabama can't stop the run, Missouri absolutely could win this game outright. But with the home field advantage and the style of play that they have, I think that's really the only thing that gives them a chance in this game. Overall, I feel like Alabama's going to be the better team. They got the better quarterback. But we've seen Alabama struggle with mobile quarterbacks in the past. Ahmad Hardy is probably one of the best players in college football. So if they can't stop Ahmad Hardy and Bo Pribula from running the ball, it should be a very, very interesting game. If not a long game for Alabama, but I'm confident they'll be able to find a way to limit Bo Pribula, and they'll probably rely on Ahmad Hardy. At some point, I think Alabama keys in on that, stops the run for the most part. They're definitely going to struggle a little bit because that's not a key strength for them. Got Alabama winning 37-29. Last game, I got Indiana at Oregon. This looks like it's going to be the biggest game of the week. It's the number 7 team in the country traveling to the number 3 team. Big Ten title implications. It's just a huge matchup. Probably 2 of the best quarterbacks in college football at the moment. Fernando Mendoza taking on Dante Moore. I think this might be the best quarterback battle in the Big Ten, probably that we'll have all season. Mendoza has a lot of in-game experience. He's been in the league for a while. Dante Moore's talent to me just is what sticks out. I think it's going to be experience versus talent in this game. Dante Moore just seems to have a little bit more talent to me. And around him, he also has more talent. I think the receiver production in Oregon is probably going to surpass what Elijah Surratt and company are able to do at Indiana. I just think they got too much depth. If Kenyon Sadiq's healthy and he's there at tight end, that's really hard to stop just with the Swiss Army knife that he can be at times. I like what he brings to the table. The running backs for Oregon, they go so deep in that room. They can just keep putting guys out on the field, and it's like they never subbed out their number 1 running back. They've just got another guy they can throw in there. I think it'll be really close. Oregon showed that they played really close with Penn State, who may not be as good a football team as we thought. So I'm not going to discredit them. That's a really hard place to play and a really tough team to beat at home at night. But they may have some glaring weaknesses that we haven't seen yet and haven't been exposed. Indiana's the team that can do that. They're very efficient throwing the ball. They run the ball really well at times. They're very balanced. Fernando Mendoza is very accurate, and he's very, very skilled at passing down the field. That's going to be big in this game. If he's able to find throws down the field to Elijah Surratt and Omar Cooper, they absolutely could win this game. But I like Oregon right now. I think they've got more roster talent and more cohesion as a group. So I'm taking them 27-24. Should be a really fun game. I'm looking forward to it. Got Oklahoma at Texas. I think the biggest one that stands out to me in this game as far as contributors for Oklahoma is, can Michael Hawkins, as the backup, if he ends up being the starter, which is looking more and more likely, impact the run game and find explosive plays. He didn't look the greatest to me against Kent State, which is one of the worst teams in the country right now. They just really didn't move the ball well early in the first half, going into the second half. They weren't able to run the ball. He wasn't really a factor down the field. Just didn't really do too much to me to make me think that they're going to run away with this game. Um, Arch has just got to get the ball out quicker. He has been very slow to release the ball in the pocket. He stands around even when he's got good protection and throws into double coverage consistently. So I haven't liked what I've seen from him a good majority of the time. Their offensive line's been terrible. They cannot pass protect. So even when he has the time to throw, it's just not really there, and he holds onto the ball. So talked about that with Jackson Arnold and Auburn. Same situation there. These quarterbacks' processing speeds are just low right now. They haven't really caught up to having a feel for the speed of the game. And when they catch up, they have the athleticism to be really great. But right now, they just haven't caught up there mentally. So that's where I'm at with Texas. Is offense. Their run game's been terrible. We talked about that. Covering the game when they played against Florida this past week, they couldn't run the ball. They relied too much on Arch's legs, and he would hold on to the ball. Receivers weren't really finding much open grass, and it just didn't really work out for them. I don't think they're going to have much more luck against Oklahoma, who has probably one of the best defenses in college football. So I'm going to take Oklahoma, assuming John Mateer's not playing anyway, 35-27. If John Mateer starts in this game, they should win. I don't know that I would change my score too much because Michael Hawkins is a similar play style, and I don't think that they'll be able to run the ball with their backs just because John Mateer's in the game. So I feel like Oklahoma will win a lot of close games because they can't ice them running the football, but just because of the explosive playmaking of John Mateer, they're probably going to be in absolutely every game that they play in, no matter what the situation is. But I like this team a little bit more than I like Texas right now, so I'm going to take Oklahoma. Moving on, Nebraska at Maryland. Maryland has started to show some promise. They start off 4-0. A lot of people, I think, had their win total below 4. So they've looked really good for the start of the season. I think that the biggest matchup for me is going to be the quarterbacks. Dylan Raiola has been kind of spotty so far this season. He's played well, but this team just hasn't been consistent to me. They didn't play the greatest against Michigan. I don't know that Maryland has the talent to necessarily keep up with Nebraska like Michigan did, but they surprised a lot of people. They got up early on Washington last week, which I thought would be a blowout game, or at least Washington would handle that game, but they didn't. They ended up coming back and beating Maryland at the end of the game. So Maryland choked that one away to be at 5-0 in this matchup, be in a good position in the Big Ten. But regardless, I don't think that they really would have been able to hang on. Their schedule's not very easy. I think Nebraska takes this one. If they find a solid rushing attack in this game, they'll probably end up chewing a lot of clock, possessing the ball, and with the athletes they've got on defense, probably hold Maryland to a few points. I've got it 24-14, Nebraska winning this one. Florida at Texas A&M. My biggest question is if Marcel Reed can hold up against the best defense that he has played all season. Florida has looked really solid, even in their losses defensively. They looked really good against Arch and Texas last week in the Swamp. Traveling to Texas A&M and College Station, can they play to that same level and force Marcel Reed to be accurate with the football? I think that that's going to be a struggle for him. I don't know that he will be able to be accurate, but they're going to find their explosive plays. They always do. I don't know that Florida will be able to keep up in the end if it ends up being a shootout. But if they can keep this a low-scoring game and Marcel Reed struggles to find open receivers and be accurate, Florida could take this game outright and have back-to-back upsets against Texas teams, which would really suck for the state of Texas. Their only undefeated team left it would be North Texas, so they kind of need A&M to win this game. But I think it'll be close. This game's always entertaining. If DJ Lagway and Dallas can continue to be a consistent connection, then this offense will be probably one of the better offenses in the SEC. They've been very poor early in the season. That may have been partially due to the fact that they don't have really good wide receiver production right now. But Dallas Wilson has been out for the past 4 weeks with an injury, true freshman receiver. Now he's back, and he put up over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns in his first game ever. So I think he's legit. I think that if DJ Lagway continues to get him the ball and that connection stays consistent, they're going to be really solid. But got to have the passing game. Can't just rely on Jaden Ball in the run game, which he played very well against Texas. I think he'll have an impact against A&M with a porous run defense. I figure this game will be close. I've got A&M winning, though, 34-27. Next game, I got Georgia at Auburn. Jackson Arnold just has to be better for this to be a winnable game. Like we talked about, he holds onto the ball for too long, and they just cannot seem to get him to get rid of the ball, even when he has good protection. And a lot of times that protection ends up falling apart anyways, takes too many sacks. I think he's taken the most sacks in the entire country currently up to this point. I think he had like 20 in the past 3 games, which is insane. Georgia has to be able to move the ball on the ground and pressure the quarterback. Those are the keys to the game for them. If they pressure Jackson Arnold and they run the ball, they'll win the game. I just don't think it could be close if that's the case. But I'm sure Auburn will have some stuff go their way. They played competitively in all their games so far. So I'm going to take Georgia 28-24. You got Michigan at USC with the elite offense of USC playing against a balanced Michigan team. Bryce Underwood finds a rushing attack and passing attack in this game. The question is if USC will be able to stop um, Michigan from scoring. They haven't really stopped many teams from scoring this year. Despite the fact that they have an elite offense, the defense is still in question for USC. I think Makai Lemon is a great receiver. Jade Mayava has been incredible. They'll probably score some points, but if Michigan starts stopping this offense, I just don't know that USC's defense will hold up in this game. So Michigan's defense against USC's offense probably is the biggest matchup here. If they slow down USC, I feel like Michigan will be able to move the ball and score points. I've got Michigan winning 31-27. Definitely see a scenario though where USC could win this game outright. South Carolina at LSU. I think the biggest question is if LSU can stop Dylan Stewart from teeing off on Garrett Nussmeier in this game. LSU's passing offense has been lackluster. Um, the pass protection's been pretty bad. Haven't been able to run the ball. They have been relying on big plays to kind of carry them through some of these games, but they have not really come away with a lot. Not scoring many points. I think they're averaging probably around 25 points a game, maybe a little less. So I'm going to have to see a little more from LSU's offense in this game. If they're able to protect Garrett Nussmeier, they should win. I think that's, other than Lenore Sellers playing good football, that's really the only key to this game for LSU. They are way more talented and they should win. But if Lenore ends up playing like he did against Missouri and they start getting home on Garrett Nussmeier, they could win this game too. But it's at LSU. I'm sure it'll be a night game. It's going to be a tough one for South Carolina. LSU's got to bounce back after a loss to Ole Miss in a bye week. We'll see what they can do there. BYU at Arizona. BYU is starting to show what they can do on offense with Bear Bachmeier. I didn't know that he was going to be near as good as he was, at least for BYU in their scheme, being a freshman. And I hadn't really seen much of him, hadn't seen any film. Didn't know that they replaced any talent offensively that would be able to produce at the level that they're at right now. They haven't played really that many good teams yet. So Arizona not really being one of them. Could still have a chance in this game, but their offense is spotty, inconsistent. Noah Fafita has been good at times, but had a couple interceptions against Oklahoma State, poor throws, bad decisions, but they were able to handle that game just given the fact Oklahoma State is not a good football team. I think that that'll not pay off for them when they end up playing BYU. I think key turnovers from Noah Fafita in the passing game will probably lean this game towards BYU by a couple scores. Their consistent complementary football from them has been probably the key to their success, being able to run the ball, throw the ball well, and capitalize on turnovers. That's just always what BYU does. I think that'll be what they do again against Arizona in a rivalry game. Moving on, Arizona State at Utah. Already picked this game. Arizona State's run game just has to be a focal point. If Sam Levitt can find Tyson with limited time from the Utah pass rush, they'll probably play really well. But if the Utah pass rush gets home, Utah absolutely has a shot to win this game at home and be one of the leaders for the Big 12 title right now. Devin Dampier needs to find more receiving threats in this game. He needs to find some big run plays. His athleticism has to be used in this offense. If they cannot find receiving threats, they will have a tough time scoring against Arizona
So that'll
State.
do it for episode 12 of the Feel for the Game podcast. We will fortunately have Wilkes back next week to make this podcast feel a little bit more whole. I'm sure the listening experience is going to feel a little bit disconnected with me talking completely separate from him and probably the audio sounding different and all that. But this is just going to be a 1 week issue. So won't have to worry about this again the rest of the season. Super excited for this week. A lot of big games. This is the most games we've previewed in a week, I believe. 12. So possibly a lot of movement in our overall season pick records. I'm actually gonna show y'all that real fast or tell y'all that. Wilkes is 48-18 so far this year in games we've previewed on this show. And I'm a 42-24. I've struggled a little bit compared to him 6 games back. Just a lot of these toss-up games I've been on the wrong side of. But hopefully for myself I can claw back in. Combined we're 90-42, which is around 70% accuracy, I think. So pretty good accuracy there from us. But as I said, super excited for this week. We'll be back next week. Hopefully getting this posted again on Wednesday. Eventually I do want to scoot that up. Possibly try to start recording on Sundays and get these posted on Monday. I feel like that'd be great. Probably help the viewership having this out earlier for y'all. more days to view it before the games start. But that's going to do it for episode 12. See y'all back here next week for episode 13.